This is the Healthy Business Podcast, the show for ambitious business owners who want to grow and scale in a healthy way. I'm Sarah Cook, and I'll be sharing with you tips, inspiration, and proven methods from leading business experts, entrepreneurs, and health and wellness professionals to help you grow your business with more income and having more impact, but in a way that works for you. Because when you have clarity and strategy, you can achieve the results you want. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Healthy Business Podcast. I'm super excited because we have the wonderful Sandra Ten Hoope that is joining us, talking all things sales pages. And I know this is something that brings up a lot of kind of anxiety or nervousness when people think that they are about to start writing a sales page or they know they need to have one. So I thought I'd bring an expert in to chat to you today. Sandra, thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited for our chat today.
So am I, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. There's one thing that I really love to do, and that is to talk about sales pages. And I can almost hear some of the listeners cringing like, oh no, they're going to think it's either going to be a boring conversation on what you have to have in there. And oh gosh, I don't even want to think about it. But trust me, dear listener, it's going to be nothing like that. All I want to do is show you that it can be fun and profitable at the same time.
And that's the whole point of a sales page, isn't it? We want to make it easy. We want to make it simple, not just for you to create it, but actually for the potential buyer to be able to navigate through it and then ultimately make the sales. And that's where that profit comes in. So tell me a little bit more for those people who are listening to this and thinking, I don't even know what a sales page is. Like, this is a whole new world for me. What is a sales page?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of business owners, whether they are online business owners or have an offline business, they already have way more in the field of sales pages than that they are aware of. Most of them have at some point written about what they offer, be it in a social media post, be it in a flyer, but also they have had many conversations with their clients, with their friends, about what they are doing. And a sales page is nothing more and nothing less than a piece on paper, or you could even do it in video if you like, that tells the world who you are, what the problem is that you solve, what the service is that you bring, and what value you could give to your client. And it would also show, obviously, what it would cost the client. And that need not be elaborate. I mean, if you was to ask me what my business is, like we're talking now, and I tell you, well, obviously I do sales page reviews. In that conversation, you will find almost all of these elements. But then, especially when you're in the online business and you sign up for a program or you start working with a coach or start working with a mentor, they show you all the steps to get your business out there. And one of them is the sales page. And that's when a lot of people almost choke up because most online business owners are not writers. They're not copywriters. They're not writers anyway. And they go like, oh gosh, what now? Well, then usually there is a model that they could work with, and it doesn't feel just right. It's either way too elaborate, or it uses words that they would never do in a conversation. It seems to be something because they've seen sales pages of others that is like 30 pages long. What would they fill that with? And ultimately, they hold off almost on their entire business. Let me give you an example. I earlier in the year reviewed a page for a coach in the financial services industry, and it said a lot of wonderful things. But it didn't really show me who she was as a person. While at the same day, because, we're also friends, I saw a post by her, just a Facebook post, about the situation that she had encountered. And she made a perfect transgression from her personal situation into her business, because, what she encountered, others could encounter. She had a wonderful, witty twist on it, as I got to know her, a very witty person. And it was all in there. So I got back to her and I said, you gave me some pointers in that sales page, but you didn't give me you. Why did you not put what is in that post in the sales page? Yeah, but I said, no buts, because that is it. So anybody who, in whatever shape or form, feels comfortable to talk about their business, and I hope you would, because you should be proud of your business. You should be very proud of your own accomplishments as a person, the expert at what you are. So if you're able to talk about it in a conversation, on paper, in a live, wherever, you are almost halfway there. It just takes a bit of sorting it all out in a way, like you said, navigate your client through the journey, because that's what you do. It just needs a few steering points, and then you're there. And so if you don't think of sales page as a very separate thing from the rest of your conversations, it becomes a lot easier to comprise one.
I love that. It's almost the extension of, or a kind of a longer version of any piece of content, isn't it? Because essentially every piece of content we put out there, whether it's an email, whether it's social media, whether it's a face-to-face conversation, video, that's still marketing, it's still sales, and the sales page is part of that. It's just an extension that has all of those things and maybe a specific product or a service that you're selling. And I think that's the hurdle that people need to get over in some ways, is that we hear that phrase sales page and we just instantly have these barriers that get put up, whereas actually you're probably doing a lot of what you're doing anyway, and we just need to translate that across onto the sales page. I love that idea of bringing your personality into it as well, because people buy from people, don't they? 80% of conversions are based on emotion, and that has to come through. People want to know who they're about to work with or who they're about to buy with. And that's what makes you different as well. If you have two sales pages that are very similar types of product or service that you're selling, you want to know the difference. And generally it's that person and that person's personality that comes through that's really going to speak to you.
Yeah, for me, a good sales page, for me, it's almost like a recipe. If you look in a recipe book, then, on top of that page would be lovely, you would go to the section like desserts, and then it would say lush chocolate cake, and maybe a subline with cherries on top. So on top, you would have basically already that what you would need. I would say the first maybe 5 to 7 lines on top would tell me exactly what it is, what it would do for me, why you would be the one to deliver it, and maybe even give a small idea on the price. You see, I'm not the biggest of cooks, but if I go through a recipe book, I also would want it to be like 1 or 2 pages. If a recipe were 30 pages, unless you're a Michelin star chef, and maybe you wouldn't even need the book anymore then, you'd be put off. So think of it as a recipe. Show what it is, showcase the ingredients, showcase sort of the cooking process, what you're going to do with them to get their result. And at the end, you will have the picture of the perfect, wonderful chocolate cake with the cherries on top. It's as easy as that. And I came to the reference of the recipes when I was speaking to someone about my business setup for the sales page review. And all of a sudden, he said, so basically, it's stop waffling, start selling. And then we came up with all these waffle references, as you do. And that's why I ventured more out into the idea of it being a recipe. And that's what I want to bring to the people, because they have the ingredients, they have the cooking method, they are the chef at what they do. Just bring it all together. And it needn't be long and it needn't be painful. All you have to do is make it very succulent, very mouth-watering. And then that's basically when we come to the sort of persuasion part. I went through a program, so I became a certified master persuader. And I'm afraid that we've been bombarded with marketing and sales techniques that have put persuasion too much in a sort of tell-sell corner. Persuasion to me is not cold selling. Persuasion to me is anything but tell-sell. It is showcasing what you do in a certain light, for it to appeal to those that you wish to help with your service. It's a choice of words. It's a layout thing. It's, like I said, it's a recipe, but it's not meant to, like I said, force people to work with you or force people to, buy your service. Persuasion is not an enforcing method. Well, I know it can be used that way, but it shouldn't be. And that's not what I want to bring to my clients. I wish for them to appeal to their clients in a persuasive yet honest way, with all the integrity and all the experience that they have as a professional.
I think you're right. I think so much of what we see about marketing and sales is the hustle and the hard grind. And actually that is putting a lot of people off. And I always say that if you're pushing and pushing and pushing, you're actually going to push people away. And, me coming from a sort of more traditional marketing background, so much of it is missed because of the social media world that we live in. And marketing does not equal social media. There are so many different ways that we can market to our audience. But actually, and as you've just said there, so much of what comes from is this relationship. It's about really understanding our ideal clients, really understanding who our audience, the right audience are for your products and services. And when you could take time to really delve into that, to understand, all of their different kind of feelings, but it's more than that, because it's not, so much we're told about, who is your ideal client and you have to tick them into a box. And for me, I like to take a slightly different approach. And I think this is what comes so strongly within what you do with the persuasion and the copy, is that actually, and the bit that's missed so often, is it's about their attitudes. It's about their core values. That's the human piece that so many people miss when it comes to selling. That, yes, of course, we can have ideal client avatars and, put them into a box. But actually, for most people, we're working with other people. You don't want to work with someone who ticks a box. You want to work with somebody who has similar and at least aligned values and attitudes, because otherwise, if they do buy from you and they don't have a similar value or attitude, that's going to feel like hard work. And that doesn't help you have a joyful, easy business, which is what we're all trying to create.
Exactly. I think the emphasis should be to be an ideal seller, to be a seller that truly listens to their clients' needs and sees if what you offer truly fits those needs.
Yeah.
And it might be the case, it might not be the case. To be honest about, what you bring to the table, who you bring it to the table for, and also, on the pricing, be transparent, because you can't really always predict who will be the person buying on the other side. I mean, obviously, depending on the product that you offer, you have a certain audience in mind. You can't always control who it would appeal to, but you can control, you being the ideal seller, how you showcase yourself to the world. And whether the way you speak about your offer is as truthful and transparent as possible, that you can control.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the bit that connects people. That's such a big part of persuasion as well. And when you're writing copy, it goes into more of that serving piece rather than that selling, that pushing selling side of things. It's about serving. What are the benefits to help these people if they were to buy your product and service? That's really what we're doing here, is putting up that list of ingredients, that how it can help them if they were to choose to invest in that. And I think, it's so interesting, because I think there's a lot of people teaching things in a way that doesn't feel aligned to me and to you by the sounds of it as well. And I think people then get stuck in this sort of hustle mentality and feeling like they're doing all the things and still wondering why sales aren't coming in, because they're missing that human connection piece with the relationships and really buying. And it's not about shouting the loudest. It is about that stop waffling, start selling in a really aligned way for you, but also for them.
Yeah, it's first about, shining the light on what makes you unique. So what I am good at, if people come to me, is from, what they give me to review, or the conversation that we would have, or what I see from them on social media, is what makes them unique in their field of expertise, and what makes this offer that they now want to sell unique in the market. And that I help them, comprise in a few sentences that are not the regular I am and I help, so that, because a lot of people get stuck on that, because it's a formula. I got stuck on that for years. And you can explain it to people in a few sentences without always using the same lines. So that's what I bring to people. And that is the one thing that we put on top of that recipe. And everything else just flows. And you just was speaking about the benefits. And what I always ask people to do is to dive really deep into the benefits behind the benefits. I think that's a true core of persuasion. Because if you offer them a product or service that buys them time, that's wonderful. But it's even more wonderful if you could then explain to them, based on what you know about your clients, what they could do with that time.
Yeah.
Some would be geared towards, I've got time to spend with the family. Others would be like, okay, I have time to build a business alongside what I'm doing, or I would have time to run a marathon, start training for a marathon. It's always the benefits behind the benefits, because everybody says freedom, everybody says money, a lot of people say time, and I say, yeah, but what would we do with it? What would it really mean for me to have? Like something that I'm struggling with, it's like I have a very irregular sleeping pattern. So if you were to come to me and would explain to me that you have a method or whatever you bring to me that would help me have a more regular sleeping pattern, that's wonderful. But I know what it would mean to me. It would mean more energy. It would mean less worry, because, nothing makes you worry as much as not being able to sleep at night, because you're in the dark, you're alone, you have to sleep because you need energy during the day. So if they was to explain to me what else I would get other than the regular sleeping pattern, I would be very inclined to, try out that offer.
Yeah, it's that so what question.
Yeah, it's always the so that question. And people think it's hard, but once they go through the first so that, when I ask them to do the so that, they often come back with like 20, 30 lines. And we do not need to use them all in this particular sales page, because my idea about the sales page, like I said, it's a 1 or 2 pager. But if you've done the exercise, you immediately have 20 content prompts for your blogs, for your lives, for whatever you want to do with it, that will help you make the content to get, more promotion for your sales page. Because the one time you address the energy, the other time you address less worry, etc. But it all comes down to the same offer. So whatever I ask my clients to explain or do, so we can comprise it, they can use in their promotion.
Yeah, it's so important to talk about this, I think, because when people think about a sales page, they think about it as a single entity. Whereas actually it's almost that's the end point, and you can use that, or well, the starting point, whichever way you want to look at it, but reverse engineer everything that's on your sales page. You need to get people to that sales page. So you need the persuasive content, the marketing pieces to get them onto that sales page. And you can have the best sales page that's written, but if no one's seeing it, you're not going to make those sales either. So I think it's utilizing, or as you say, all that work. If you've done that pre-work to really understand your ideal client, to really understand what the benefits actually enable them to do, you can use that in your marketing to then drive them to your sales page. And then they have that reconnection with you, and that sort of, I suppose you're reselling, you're repersuading them, because if they've come across to your sales page and the sales page is well written, there's no reason that they shouldn't be buying from you, because everything is then aligned on their content talks to them, or your content talks to them, and sales page is talking to them. This product or service is exactly what they need, and you've explained why, because it enables them to do X, Y, and Z. The next step for them is that call to action, which is the buying piece. And I think people miss that because it is an extended process. But actually, once you've got that in place, it actually makes things so much easier, because you know what you're selling, you know where you're driving people to, and everything that you've got on that sales page can be regenerated and repurposed into your content that's going to get them there.
Exactly. Like we said earlier, it's not that different from a general post in whatever shape or form. It would just have a more explained or extended call to action than a regular post would have.
Yeah.
And we come back to the personality piece. If you love to do lives, there's no reason why there couldn't be a video of you on that sales page. Make it as similar as your regular way of speaking to people.
Yeah.
And if you're very witty in your blogs, it should be there in the sales page. Because if people know you, and we all know it takes a lot of days and a lot of contact moments for people to really get to know you, to a point that they're thinking, oh, hey, this person might have the solution to what I need. It should really sound like you. Because else it would be very odd. But you see a lot of people just going for the model, and it's not aligned with who they are. And then people are put off, which is a shame, because there's already a lot of time and energy invested in the relationship. And like, this doesn't sound like, this is weird. Once you lose them at that point, it's very hard to reconnect.
It is. It's having that alignment through everything that you do, and showing up as you, whether that's video or in that text post as well. And that sort of, I suppose it's your true identity, isn't it? Your branding. That, so many people think that branding is just a logo, but actually it's you, especially if you are running that business or you're going to be delivering that product or service. People are buying into you, and they want to know who you are. That's that big piece of trust, that whole like, know, and trust when it comes down to relationship building. It's so important that you have that that comes through before you even get them onto the sales page. But if, as you say, if there's a mismatch between them knowing you as a person to then what translates onto the page, that trust starts being questioned, because you're not being you, or you're not showing up as you. So you want to have that consistency across everything that you're doing. What is the optimal length? I know you kind of said 1 to 2 pages, but if someone is, kind of breaking this down or kind of looking at it as an online sales page, what does that look like?
So for me, the perfect sales page would be a 1 or 2 pager. It could be longer, depending on who you are, what you offer, and the market that you offer things to. If you know that, for instance, you venture out into the corporate world, where a lot of people still tend to read thoroughly through offers, we might need a longer sales page. But let's say that you are either selling to other online entrepreneurs, or you are selling a maybe more holistic offer to your clients. Usually a 1 or 2 pager is sufficient. I've identified like 15 points that make for the easy navigation, for the customer really to go on a journey in that page. Not all are necessary. Some relate to guarantees, bonuses that not all offers will bring with them. But even on a 1 or 2 pager, we can fit in most of those elements. It's easy to read for the customer. It doesn't make them feel like scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, in which you could also lose their attention. And like I said before, like in a recipe book, 1 or 2 pages will get you interested in trying out the recipe. Longer, you would have to be really looking for something very specific. And like I said, if that's your market, we'll cater to it. But if it's not, you can make it really juicy. I had the honor of reviewing a sales page early in the year. And the business owner came to me, she said, it's only the 1 page. I'm sorry, maybe I should make it longer before I send it to you for review. And it was near perfect. All it needed was 2 or 3 lines on her specific expertise, but she had added a link to a part of the website where her expertise was showcased. But as as a consumer of sales pages for years myself, before I learned how to review them, you do not click through when you're reading a sales page, or maybe even anything that you see online. You hardly ever click through. So it has to show, and it needn't be long, in a few sentences, who you are, where your expertise lies. But other than that, I could not fault her page.
So good. It's such a simple thing, isn't it? I think sometimes we do over question things when we just actually need to keep it simple and straightforward. And if you've got the different elements in there, then that is all you need. You don't need to have reams and reams and reams of pages and qualifying things. Because if in some ways, if your ideal client can't get or understand what the offer is or who you are and the benefits from a shorter page, then it becomes into that waffling space that then is either going to confuse them or it's either going to kind of move forward. I remember my very, very first job when I was a sales rep, and my sales trainer at the time just said, just shut up. Just shut up, like in the sense of, you do your pitch, you sell to them, you say what you're going to say, you did give the benefits, and then you just stop. And I think there is a huge thing in that as well, isn't there? Of they need to process things. They need to understand whether that is right for them. And then you have that opportunity for questions. But if you bombard people with too much information, then that becomes confusing. Then that leads into overwhelm. And quite often that leads to inaction. And we see that all the time. If there's just too much stuff or we're giving people too many different options, that they generally don't buy from you. So keeping it simple is absolutely, I think this is going to be music to a lot of people's ears, and just keeping things straightforward and simple. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated.
Not at all. And it doesn't have to be, like we said before, out of alignment. I'm quite sure that most people listening now are thinking, I don't have a sales page. I think you do. I just don't think that you ever saw how far, through a post or anything else that you have out there on your business, maybe on your website already. I think you're almost there, way more than you realize. If only you would not think of it as sales page.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It feels like a really good summary, doesn't it? Where can people, if people are listening to this going, I think I need some support on this, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me through my personal page, obviously, Sandra Ten Hoope, on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. But there is also a Facebook page called Dare to Displease, Stop Waffling, Start Selling.
Amazing. That just totally sums up this podcast episode of just keeping things simple. You don't need to overcomplicate it. You don't need to over-justify things, and just, don't need to keep waffling. Sandra, I've loved chatting to you today. It's been super useful, and I think hopefully for the listeners as well. But do reach out to Sandra. She's an absolute whiz when it comes to sales pages and helping you create that persuasive copy and content that actually does work, but doing so in an aligned way rather than in a pushy, hardcore sales way, which no one likes to be reading, let alone be on the end of as well. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's podcast. Hopefully it's given you a little bit of food for thought, and thank you for joining us. And I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Healthy Business Podcast. You can get a copy of my best-selling book, Healthy You, Wealthy Business, over on my website, sarahcookcoaching.com/book. In there, you'll find practical advice, useful tools, and real actionable steps to help you be your best self and build a wildly successful business with ease so that you can create a limitless life in the way that you choose.